There's an awful lot I could say about pubs, but being a politician, you suddenly find that it's actually difficult to get out of the Westminster bubble, which is behind me here, and get what people really, really think and really are saying. And the best way to do that is to go down the pub and you have a listen, have a pint, which is always obviously a hardship, and just have a listen and a chat to people. And it's very hard to keep it real when you work in Parliament 4 days a week, but going down the pub and listening to what people are really saying is a very good way to do it. So I try to make a habit of it, responsibly, of course. I think big ideas definitely come from pubs. I mean, one little story that is lovely is one of Britain's first free schools in Bristol came out of a couple of pints had at the pub. I'd gone down to the pub for an evening off and a couple of drinks with a friend, and I was accosted by some parents saying, "We want a secondary school in our area, what are you going to do about it?" And I thought, oh crikey, I better try and do something about it. So they invited me over, and over a drink we came up with a plan to set up a group called Parents' Voice. A year and a bit later there was a new school in Bristol which wouldn't have been there had we not met in the pub. I was quite a bit older than many when I first went into a pub, because I used to swim competitively. So when all my friends were out socialising, I was ploughing up and down a swimming pool, getting chlorinated. And I fell in love with the pub, not only because I like beer, but it's also a brilliant place where everyone comes together and chats, and a tremendous sense of comradeship. And if you've had a bad day and you want to be surrounded by people and noise and conversation, whether you're with someone or whether you're just on your own, the pub's a brilliant place to go. I think we talk a lot about kind of cafe culture that you have on the continent and how we can replicate cafe culture in Britain. Now, many people, I'd say that the best place for that kind of culture of conversation, especially with old mixing with young and communities and families, especially if there's a bit of food, is your pub. You get all generations there. Some of the stories you hear from older members of our community are amazing, and just to sit down over a slow pint is fantastic. And what really makes me sad is that I sound very old now, but people who are 16, 17-year-olds now, because of cut price alcohol, are perhaps not getting that same pub experience that I grew up with because of changes in pricing and how much easier it is to go and get some cut price booze at the supermarket. I think that's a real shame. The Mouse pub in Westbury-on-Trim. It's a bit like my second sitting room, and when I was standing for election they were fantastic. When I wanted a bit of a breather after all the campaigning, I'd go in there, and they were all so friendly that they kind of let me off the hook being a political figure while I was in there. And when I first got elected on the night of the election, I think possibly they weren't supposed to, but they stayed open quite late, and my election was decided at about 5 o'clock in the morning. The first thing I did, having been announced, was go over to the Mouse, and they had a pint on the bar waiting for me at about 6 o'clock in the morning. So I had that, then went off and did the media and the radio, and it was the start of my career as an MP. Started with a pint in the Mouse.